Sorry, YouTube, I forgot to take the cover off my camera. Anyway, I'm just waiting for Instagram to turn up. Hello. I'm just getting settled in here. Okay. So while we're waiting for people to turn up, I'd love to know where you're from and how old are your kids? I'm learning so much about geography from doing these lives. There's countries I didn't even know existed. So anyway, I'd love to know where you're from and how old your kids are. I'm here in Vancouver, Canada, and my kids are 28 and 33, and I've got my first grandchild due soon. So where are you? Michigan. Hi, Michigan. I did look that up the other day. You're from Vancouver. Oh, I didn't know anyone else in Vancouver. Watch me. Washington. I get a lot of people from Europe. Well, mostly English speaking, obviously. But not just that. I get people from India, all over the place. Okay, Washington. I have a 4-year-old. Welcome. San Diego, 17-month-old baby girl. So I got a siren. I live downtown. 17-month-old baby girl. That's cute. So you're right in the toddler stage. Georgia, 20-month-old toddler stage. 4-year-old and 9-year-old. Oh, I had a 5-year split too. I liked it. I didn't plan it out that way, but it worked out great. Because one started school and then I had a newborn. So I had all the time in the world with both. Okay, Long Island, New York, 23 months and 3.5-year-old. Okay, so you got one out of the toddler stage and the other one right in the middle of it. Quebec, welcome. Tampa, Florida, 2-year-old boy. Excellent. Orlando, Florida. Excellent. Toronto. Spring, Texas. Never heard of that. 5 grandkids. Wow. Congratulations. Vancouver. Oh, you've got a 4-month-old. Okay, so you're just starting out. That's excellent. I have a 9, 7, and twin 4.5. Wow, you're busy. Los Angeles, 3-year-old boy. Excellent. Okay, Nashville, Georgia. Grandchildren, 6, 4, 4. Are they twins or different parents? I'm just curious. That's Cheryl. Okay. Mitten, Alberta. Edmonton. Is that a place? Mitten, Alberta? Makes sense, but is it a place? I'm going to look that up. Mitten, Alberta. It doesn't come up. So it's not. What do you mean by Mitten, Alberta? What does that mean? So I know Edmonton, I know Alberta, but what's Mitten? Is that just a nickname for Alberta? Auburndale, Florida, 2 years old. 7-year-old, 4-year-old, 18-month-old, and a 1-month-old. Whoa, Ohio, you're busy. Kansas, 6-year-old, 2-year-old, and 1 on the way. Congratulations. Oh, look where you're all from. Southwest Ranches, Florida, 2-year-old grandson. Southwest Ranches. I'm going to look that. I always type in, if I've never heard of somewhere, I type it in. And I look it up later. I'm learning a lot about geography. I love it. Okay, Edmonton, Alberta, 5 and 6-year-olds. Okay, well, let's get going with your parenting questions now. Philadelphia, 2.5-year-old granddaughter and twins coming. Congratulations. I've got a granddaughter coming. A spelling error. Was that the mitten? I hope so, because that's really thrown me off. I'm going to, yeah. Yeah, it was. Okay. Okay. Raleigh, North Carolina. I know that's not how you pronounce it. Raleigh. I know it should be pronounced, but that's not right, is it? Michigan, 15-month-old baby girl. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. What I'm going to do from now on, my big audience is really on TikTok, but the lives are getting really popular here too. So I'm going to split this in two, and I'm going to do 30 minutes on Instagram. Then I'm going to switch over and do 30 minutes on TikTok. And I've got 2 regularly scheduled lives. The other ones I just pop up, like this one. Tuesday night on TikTok, and then Thursday night on Instagram is my regularly scheduled lives. But I just turn up every day. Sometimes I'll turn up twice a day. But I'm going to do 30 minutes on here, and then I'm going to switch over to TikTok. But I save them all on YouTube. So it's all Bratbusters parenting. Anyway, let's get going with your parenting questions. Oops, I didn't even get ready for it. Oh, this is so cute. Someone asked me in one of my courses, they ask a lot of questions in the comments, and they said how to entertain a 1-year-old. And I looked up all these activities that you do with a 1-year-old on YouTube. I would love this stuff, playing with wet noodles and all this. Oh, it's just fantastic. So yeah, I'm looking at this. I'm thinking, I'll have to make some of this stuff up just for myself. I'm really kind of under or deprived because my kids, there was no slime when my kids were little or kinetic sand. I would have loved that stuff. I'll have grandkids coming along, so I'll get a go at it. Okay, so sorry, I'm just getting my notes ready because I have a few points I like to hit, and it's just a reminder to hit these points. Sorry, I wasn't organized. Okay, so as I said earlier, I'm going to be doing just 30 minutes on here, and then I'll switch over to TikTok. I'm going to split them in two from now on, unless they're my regularly scheduled nights for my lives, because I'm picking up here I'm new on Instagram, and I'm just picking up here. TikTok is where my big audience is, but the lives are going really well here too. So I was always doing lives every day on TikTok, but now I'm going to do them both. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. Spruce Grove, Alberta. Gee, that's a pretty sounding place. Sydney, Australia. That's where my son was born. 18 months and one due in 3 weeks. Wow, you're going to really be busy. My daughter was born in Brisbane. I raised my kids in Australia. My son was 15 when we moved back to Canada. We moved back because my mom was ill and elderly, and my son still has an Australian accent, but my daughter was 10. She doesn't. But we still have a lot of Aussie slang that we use. Okay, you have a question, we'll ask away. Siblings fighting, how do you resolve that? There's a million different ways. That one always kind of throws me off because I always kind of go, because there's so many different ways of dealing with it. If they're fighting, let's say they're about 5 and 6 years old and they're playing a PlayStation game and they start fighting. I would take the older one out first. I'd say, okay, you can't get along, you come with me. You take the older one out, just in the kitchen with you, no talking about it. There's no need to have these therapy sessions when you're disciplining. It puts all the focus on the bad stuff. You don't want to do that. Anyway, bring them in the kitchen, say, you stay in here with me for 10 minutes, and then just talk about anything else. If they just want to talk about the fighting and the game and how unfair it is, just say, I'm not talking about that. Anyway, then after 10 minutes is up, bing, the timer goes off. You say, okay, go back and have fun, whatever. Do not say stuff like this. No more fighting or all that stuff. Makes you look weak, like you don't know what you're doing. Just don't bother. Don't focus on the bad stuff. Focus on the good kid. You deal with bad behavior, but you focus on the good kid. Anyway, you watch them like a hawk now. The next time they start fighting, take the other one out. You go back and forth and back and forth. You might have to do that all day. They'll get so sick of it, they'll either get along or they'll whisper fight. And who cares if they're whisper fighting? I hate you too. Who cares, right? That's for kind of, it depends. There's a million different methods. That's not going to work with everything, but that's just if they're fighting over one thing. 17-month-old baby girl only wants me because I spend all day with her and refuses her when her dad puts her to bed. How do we make it easier for everybody? Okay. Yeah, so I just had a question about that. Was it in one of my courses, I think? Where was that? Someone just asked. It was so similar. But it wasn't a 17-month-old. It was a 16-month-old. Anyway, so yeah, if they're preferring one parent over the other, just say, I'm busy, and just go wander off and do something else. They will eventually learn. If you give into that stuff, like they get pick and choose, I want you, no, I want you, I want you. She will survive if her dad has to do it. The only exceptions I have to that is if they're sick or something, something's really not quite right with them. They're not feeling well or something. Then I would give in. I do whatever they want when they're sick. I don't care. I don't ignore tantrums or anything. You meet their needs first. If they're sick, you deal with the sick, you know what I'm saying. Do whatever, coddle them as much as you have to when they're sick. But yeah, if it's just that she just doesn't want dad, that's okay. You meet their needs and you manage their wants. She is just fine with dad looking after her. She'll have a fit. If you're afraid of their fits and tantrums and scenes, they're in charge. Don't be afraid of it. They'll get used to it. You just got to be willing to go through the storm to get to the rainbow. Everyone wants the rainbow, but you got to go through the storm. The storm, which is all the problems, all the tantrums and all that, the scenes, the fits, all that, that is where the lessons are. That's the gold. Like if a kid threatens, I've actually looked after kids who've said, if you don't do that, if you don't let me do that, I'm going to have a fit. This is me. Bring it on. Like as if I can be threatened with a fit. Like, are you kidding me? So yeah, don't be afraid of a fit or a scene or a tantrum, because that is their lesson. That's how they learn. Only if they're feisty. If they're not feisty, they don't even do that. So this one's tough for me, and you're going to hate my answer. When do kids start being better with little dogs? My 17-month-old constantly pulls my Chihuahua on Dashin's tail and ear. When will that stop? I've actually suggested if you can't keep an animal safe and unharmed, rehome them. I've actually had clients who've done that. I always had dogs in the house and birds in the house. My kids, they never went near them. They knew if they did anything like that, they would just would not go over very well. So yeah, just was not tolerated at all. So I would keep the dog in a separate area or rehome it. Now, I said you're not going to like my answer. I know it's a terrible answer, but I'm just such an animal lover. If I had a home where I had kids who were being aggressive with my pets, I would have rehomed the pets. But I know how to deal with aggressive kids, so it probably wouldn't have happened. Check out my Toddlers Who Hit, Etc. It's a mini course. I haven't been coughing all day, and now I'm coughing on the live. Anyway, it's in the link above it, and it's Toddlers Who Hit, Bite, Etc. Might help with that. Two-year-old gets frustrated while playing so intensely he tightens up. How do I help him with this frustration? Yeah, that's the kid when they can't do something. It's like when they've got a puzzle and the piece won't go where they want, they have an absolute fit. Unfortunately, there's not much you can do. They've got a short fuse. They always will. They'll just learn to manage it. But yeah, I know I know those kids. I've worked with them all, right? So yeah, they've got like a square peg and it won't fit into a round hole, and they'll just be trying to jam it in. They'll be screaming. They'll throw it across the room. They just have a short fuse. That's all it is. My son had tantrums, but he didn't have a short fuse. There's a difference. He would have just kept going with whatever it was, trying to make it work. But he had tantrums if we were out somewhere and he didn't want to leave. If I tried to take him away from somewhere, he didn't want to. That's when he would have a tantrum. But yeah, he didn't have a short fuse. There's a difference there. So yeah, that's a tough one. Got a few ideas, but I don't know what kind of parent you are, so I don't really want to recommend. In coaching, I come up with a lot more ideas because I get to know you, but on here, I don't know where your confidence level's at with this sort of stuff. So it's kind of hard for me to just throw an idea out there. But yeah, he's just got a short fuse. They'll eventually learn that they can't get a square peg in a round hole. Reminds me of there's this video making the rounds. I think it was on TikTok, and it's in a compilation of a whole bunch of people walking into things or something. And it's this guy, and he's walking up onto a veranda, and there's a hanging flower pot hanging there, and he doesn't see it, so he stupidly just bangs his head on it. I would have laughed. You know what he did? He turned around and punched it, and it went flying. And I thought, ooh, that's a temper. So yeah, he didn't learn how to manage that when he was young, obviously. Okay. Boise. Hi, Boise. You surprised I know how to say that? Boise, Idaho. I had a cousin who moved there years and years ago. Literally, 50 years ago it would have been. Ireland, 6'4" and 1 on the way. Did I already read that? No, I didn't. Ireland. I was adopted, and I was told I was half French and half Irish, so I always celebrated St. Patty's Day, and a little bit of the Irish in me. I always thought I was Irish. Turns out a few years ago, I did that 23andMe, the DNA thing. I'm not Irish at all. I'm half French and half Norwegian. It's funny. They could have told me I was anything. Oh, you're Korean. Oh, okay. I would have learned Korean. What to do when a 19-month-old will not listen? 19-month-olds do not listen. They don't listen. They're watching you. Okay, I'm going to give you my 5 top tips for parenting toddlers. To expect I won't go into it. I was going to go on a big spiel. My 5 top tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1 is child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is set up a toy rotation system so they don't get bored. Number 3 is when you play with them, if you want to connect with them, start setting yourself up as a leader. You enter their world when you do it. You play in their world. You don't connect with a 3-year-old at the nail salon. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them, okay? They just look at you differently. When you're really good at entering their world, they look at you differently. Kind of in the same way, when you're disciplining, point number 4 is stop with the mini therapy sessions. That's your world. You discipline in their world. It's all consistent corrective actions. They're not about words. They're about actions. So I got a real tickle in my throat. Of course, as soon as I came on the live, I started coughing. Number 5, stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They're just forming. They're crazy. Well, they just haven't formed yet. So it's not so much that they're crazy. They just haven't developed sanity yet. They will. It takes time. Set them up for success. That toy rotation system is another good way of starting to exercise your leadership. You're in charge of that. You're organized. When kids have too many toys out, they have a hard time focusing because they're overstimulated. It's too much going on, right? It's chaotic. Think about it this way. Oh, shoot. Am I going to have to go because of this coughing again? Sorry about that. I'm at the tail end of my cold, and I just started coughing tonight. You know what it's like at the end of a cold, something gets in there, like a little piece of dust gets in there, and oh, geez, your body freaks out. Yeah, toddlers are not listening to you; they're watching you. So set up their environment for success, and also when you say something and then they don't do it, come on, we're going to go change your diaper, and they take off in the other direction. Stop talking. Just take action. Go pick them up and change them. A lot of parents want to negotiate with a toddler. You negotiate with teenagers. You don't negotiate with a 2-year-old. You just don't. Unless they're super easy. You can, if the kids are super easy, not everything works. Like some parents will say, all I do is say to them, can you please do that? Oh, good for you. You got a really easy toddler. Like that's not what most people get. Most people don't get that, kid that just agrees to everything. My daughter was like that. She was the easiest kid in the whole world. Nothing I did. She was just born that way. My son was more normal. Okay. I don't quite know what you're doing here. Motherhood on fire. I like your tag there, handle. My 4-year-old gets upset and pouts whenever she is told no or is redirected. That's learned behavior. She's been taught it. At 4, there's a payoff for that. That's why it's learned behavior. She's learned it works, and there's got to be a payoff for that. She would not be doing that if there was no payoff. So think about it. Why is she doing that? What's she getting out of it? Is she upsetting you? That could just be her payoff. Is it frustrating you? Is it getting you angry? Is it annoying you? That's her payoff. So yeah, check out my boot camp course. It teaches you how to be a leader. When you're a leader, their attitude disappears. It just does. So yeah, she's just trying to, it's a bit of a power play with you. That's all that is. Deal with bad behavior, treat the good kid. Absolutely. Where you put your focus grows. Where you put your energy grows. So the bad behavior is like, bang, get it over with. Yeah, okay, so 24-hour media blackout. Now, do you want to play a game? Then you go instantly start focusing on the good kid. I would love to tell the pool story, but I don't want to commit to that because my voice, I'm worried I'll start coughing. Okay. I've worked with hundreds of kids, and I didn't have any leverage. When I'm out in the hospitals or schools or detention centers or psych wards or homes, wherever I was working with kids, I had no leverage. I couldn't take anything away from them. I had nothing to take away. So I used humor and fun. And what I would do is I would just get real quiet. If they did something I didn't like, I'd say, I didn't like that. And then I would just go quiet for a few seconds. That's all I had. The thing is, I was a good leader. I knew how to bring out the best in them. And when they like themselves, when they're with you, they are embarrassed to disrespect you. That's what leadership's all about. You're bringing out the best in them. You're guiding them into making good choices. You do not want obedient little soldiers. You want kids who make good choices. And they have pride, high self-esteem, confidence. That's what you're after here. That's what leadership does for your children. Your goal is to make them like themselves. Kids who are disrespecting you, they don't like themselves. They often hate themselves because they feel like crap because they're being mean to you. I don't know where I went off on that spiel for, but anyway, I did. Pouts for long periods. Yeah, it's learned behavior. It's got to be a payoff. Like if a kid was pouting around me, they could pout for hours. There's no way I would give it any attention. They would just give it up because it doesn't work. There's no payoff. Children are not like adults. Us adults, we're stupid. We keep doing the same thing repeatedly, expecting different results. You may be smarter than me. I'm stupid. I do that all the time. The exact same thing, expecting different results. I don't know why. I'm old. I'm 63. Maybe that's part of it. But kids don't. They only do what works. So at 3.5 to 4 years old, they only do what works. So it's got to work. There's got to be a payoff. I don't know what it is. You're going to have to figure that out. Okay. Sorry, I'm used to TikTok and I know the questions scroll automatically on there, so I'm way behind here. Sorry about that. I'll just flip right to the bottom and then, oh my goodness. Oh, geez. Sorry about that. I'm learning. I'm new on Instagram. Okay. I need to know the age. My son's response to anything we ask is a straight no. I need to know the age. Is he 16 or 2? I can't answer that until I know. Sorry. Good, okay. Thank you. Grandma of short fused 2-year-old. Mom is a pediatric DPT, so she's pretty consistent, calm, and ignores behaviors. Yeah, sounds good. Any toy recommendations for 17? I don't push any toys or anything. The things that my kids like the most, though, is things that they could create stuff from. Like I loved anything like the old-fashioned Lego before it was like a model kit that you put together and you never play with again. You know how they make Lego now? That's what they do. I think they've gone back to the old school kind of Lego where you actually have to put stuff together to make something. Anyway, so I like stuffed blocks or anything or Play-Doh, anything that was creative. That was what I liked. I liked them to have to think. And then if they didn't have any ideas, we'd look through books and then they would say, oh, okay, we'll make that car. We'll do that. So yeah, we go through their favorite books and maybe make something out of Play-Doh with that or draw that. So yeah, but I remember once, probably shouldn't say this, but I don't have a filtering system, so I will. My daughter really wanted, shoot, what was the name of this thing? It was Furby. I'm not big on stuff like that. It just sits there, it just does nothing. Where's the creativity? So my daughter really wanted it. And I said to her, and it was Christmas coming up. And she goes, all my friends have it. And she knew how I felt. When I said, you won't like it. She usually trusted me. And this time she did too, but she kept talking about it. So I said, oh, well, maybe Santa will bring it. I don't know. Anyway, sure enough, I got her one. She looked at it on Christmas Day, never looked at it again. Like, I don't like anything where there's you don't have to do, there's nothing to do with it. Like, where's the creativity? So she got a lot more fun out of me making Play-Doh than she ever got out of that Furby. I'll tell you that much. Okay. My 3.5-year-old only parallel plays, according to pre-K teacher, seems ADHD because he won't focus on any one activity for long, needing to invest in professional play therapy. You're asking my advice. I can't answer that. I'm not a play therapist, so I don't know if that's appropriate. But what I will say is that point number 2 when you're parenting toddlers, and 3.5 isn't really a toddler, but it's the same thing kind of goes. I did this toy rotation system with my kids right through the years. All the time they had toys, it was a toy rotation system. So they only had a few toys out at any given time. It's a lot easier to focus on something when there's only one thing in front of you. And I kind of ran my home like a school in a way. Like I had, okay, now we're going to pack that up and now we're going to do this. So they'd run around the house packing everything up because mom was going to make Play-Doh or mom's going to make some wet noodles. Like I'd get spaghetti and they'd play with that. I would put it in water or even add oil to it so it would stay slippery for longer. They're very quick to put stuff away if they know something exciting is coming up. And then someone said to me, they said, yeah, but then you're always entertaining them. I said, for that 3 hours when they were playing with that wet noodles, do you think I was involved in that? Probably not. That's when I was sewing, or I made all their clothes, so I was sewing. But yeah, I get them started. So I don't know. I'm not a play therapist. I've never worked with one, so I stay in my lane. I'm a parent-child relationship. That's what I teach. A lot of my clients have their children. They're seeing psychiatrists. They're seeing, especially with autism, they have therapists that they're working with. But I'm parent-child relationship, so I work in conjunction with a lot of other things. Legos, Play-Doh, and books. Thanks. No Furby for sure. That thing is creepy. It's kind of like, I probably shouldn't say all this, but kind of like Elmo. What are you going to do with it? I just don't get it. I was very selective with my kids' toys. And they trusted me. Like, even my daughter, if I hadn't got her a Furby, I think she might have been a little bit disappointed, but she trusted me. I just decided to teach her a lesson. Another thing I did, my son was about 8 when I had a mom's banking system. I have lots of videos on that. I gave my kids allowance from the age of 3, started one in the front of a book and the other one in the back. And I do date, description, debit, credit, balance. And so every Saturday morning we do their allowance. So a puppet Elmo, yeah, that's different. That's interactive. Okay, that's different. It's when they just talk. You know what I'm saying? Like the Furby. Anyway, so what I would do with my son was I said, you know, you got all this money in the bank, and what was the name of those cards that just came out? What were those cards? Anyway, they were collector's cards, and they were everywhere. Just a sec. 25 years ago? What the heck? It'll come to me. Anyway, I said, I'll tell you what. He was 8 years old, and all the boys were collecting these cards. All the kids, not just boys. I said, I'll tell you what. I don't want you to have any of them. And I said, if you get given any, I want you to give them away. I don't want you to have any. I want to teach you something. And a year from now, I'll explain why. And he was very intrigued. They trusted me, right? So I said, it wasn't Cabbage Patch. No. It's the first time I've ever forgotten that. What's the name of them? Anyway, they were all collecting them. We never had any, so I can't remember what they looked like. But anyway, they were huge. They're still being collected, evidently. Not like they were Pokemon cards. Anyway, so I said, a year from now, I don't want you wasting any money on those things. I just don't, because all of his friends were spending all their allowance on these Pokemon cards. So I said, in a year from now, we'll go through it. And I'll explain to you why I don't want you to have any Pokemon cards. So fine, he went through a whole year. All of his friends, all the classmates were all collecting Pokemon cards, and he didn't have any. And didn't bother him. If it bothered him, I wouldn't have suggested it. But he was kind of intrigued by this. So I said, fine. So a year later, all of his friends had lost interest. They were using the Pokemon cards to level off their chairs. I mean, they were garbage at that point. So, and they'd wasted hundreds of dollars on these things. So I said to my son, I said, you know, I calculated it. I figured out how much money, yeah. Someone said they're still very popular, not a lot of my kids' school. Yeah, the hype was gone though. You know, like they were popular in a certain grade and then the hype was gone. So anyway, I said to him, I calculated how much money your friends were spending on those things. I asked around and I said, here's how much allowance you would have spent. So you know what I did? It was like $300 or something. They were spending all their birthday and Christmas money on it, everything. And the parents were buying them for them. So anyway, I said, that was about, I think it came to $300 or $400. And I said, as a little tip, I'm going to give you half of that amount as a gift and just let you buy whatever you want. So he only spent half of what I'd given him. He bought a PlayStation game. Or no, I think he bought 2 or 3 PlayStation games. I gave him like $200 just as a gift, for not having any Pokemon cards for a whole year. And he never spent 1 cent. He saved all his money. He was saving thousands, by the way. By the time I cashed him out when he was 15, he had thousands and thousands of dollars in the bank. I never put that money aside. I was just writing it down. If you're going to do a banking system, don't be stupid like me. Put it in the bank. Have that money put aside. I never did. I mean, I'm a good saver. I had it, but it hurt. I mean, it was a substantial amount of thousands. Anyway, so yeah, it was a really good lesson. Funny thing is, he invited some of his friends over, and they were all, oh my God, you got like 3, it wasn't even his birthday, 3 new PlayStation games. How come? And he says, that's my Pokemon card money. And they were all like, oh. So they were all in that spending in the moment, but they weren't into saving. I was teaching my kids how to save and respect money, right? Anyway, it was a good lesson. Another leadership skill, toy rotation system, banking system, teaching your kids how to save, discussing money with them. It's all part of your leadership. You're teaching them things, you're guiding them. If he'd said, Mom, I really want Pokemon cards, I would have said, fine, get them. It's your money. But he trusted me, so he didn't. Some are giving it away on Halloween. Yeah. They do outgrow them, though. It's like there's certain things that are popular with the same age throughout the years, but then they get in the next grade and they're onto something else. And it depends on where you are. You know what's funny is different schools have different trends. Like you can have 2 schools on the same sort of district, but that one will be into it and the other one won't. It just depends. How'd you build so much trust with your kids? I was a leader. When my mom said something, I trusted her too. Leadership, it's all leadership. I can't synopsize that too easily, other than the fact you bring out the best in them. That's what leadership is. You're bringing out the best in your kids. You're guiding them into making good choices. You're not telling them what to do. You're guiding them into making good choices. I never told my kids what to do. I just didn't. Why would I? They made good choices. I'd say, oh, isn't it bedtime now? Yeah, okay, off to bed. Love you. Good night. And it was that easy. I have no memory of ever telling my kids to go to bed or do homework. Literally no memory. They understood you got to do what you need to do before you can do what you want to do. We had a really fun household. And they liked that. That's because I was a leader. I never had to discipline them. They never had any attitude, and they just were easy. I have a whole course on that. That's the boot camp course if you're interested. But yeah, that's what leaders are. Leaders are a mentor. They look up to you. They want to please you. And then when they're teenagers, they just don't want to disappoint you. You're their safe place to land. They'll tell you everything. When you say something, they listen because they trust you. Plus, whenever I was working through things with my kids, like I never really said, no, you're not going to get that. I would say, well, let's look at this. If you bought that, how much money would you have? How many weeks would it take? I was always discussing things with them, like reasoning things out with them from the time they were really little. And they trust you. They just do. And plus, I never yelled. Yelling eliminates trust. Yelling, yeah. So I never yelled. I was in control. And your body language, your tone of voice. Like when I said something, they knew it was going to happen. A good example of that, sorry. A good example is when they were toddlers and they start to turn into alligators when you're trying to change their diaper. They knew pretty quickly when mom grabbed them to change their diaper, they didn't wrangle me very much. Their dad, on the other hand, they did. Because they knew dad might reason with them. He might let them get up. Okay, if I let you run it, you can go get that toy. And if you hold that, then will you be still when I change you? I would never have done that in a million years. But you're getting your diaper changed and it's happening now. Put my arm across their chest, bang, it's done. They just didn't even think anything of it. They pick up on your energy. They pick up on your leadership skills. You got to work. I had tons of experience before I had kids. So before I had my own kids. So that's where I learned all this. But that's what I teach, that calm leadership. They just get it. They just listen. Don't you listen to someone who really looks like they know what they're doing? And also, I was the goofy fun one. I was the crazy mother because I never had to discipline them. So I never had to waste any time being serious. I could just be crazy. I was always chasing them around the house with underpants on my head because I could, because I got all that pesky discipline and leadership cemented when they were tiny so that by the time they were older, I didn't have to discipline. Getting it is hard. It's a skill. That's what I teach. The boot camp course teaches you how to do that. But anyone can learn it. It's not like it's not something you can't learn. Does that make sense? It's a double negative. Anyway. So it's not something. Anyway, whatever. You know what I mean. Anyway, so it's something anyone can learn. So, but once you get it, it's like a really good mentor. Have you ever had a really good coach or a teacher that you really looked up to? They made you feel great about yourself. They brought out the best in you. Would you ever be rude to that teacher? Not only would you never be rude to that coach or that teacher, you try your hardest, don't you? You want to please them. That's what I teach. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. They want to please you. And there's just everything so easy once you get yourself set up as a leader. Anyway, I'm going to go now and I'm going to move over to TikTok now because I'm doing these lives on Instagram and TikTok now because I've got a pretty good following on Instagram now. I was just doing my daily lives on TikTok. So, but now I'm going to split them in two. So 30 minutes here, I've done 33. I'm going to shut this down and go over to TikTok. If you want to continue on there, it's Bratbusters on TikTok. And I'm still doing it on YouTube, so I'll just leave that going. So anyway, I'll be back again tomorrow sometime on here anyway. Sorry, YouTube, I'm just going to set up on TikTok. Okay. And there we go. I'm just going to grab some more water. Okay. Good, I'm on the right one. Sometimes, if you're on YouTube, hello. Sometimes I will. I was just on Instagram and I just moved over. I'm doing it a little bit differently now. I have two different TikTok channels, and sometimes I'll be on the wrong one. On my small, I just talk about old lady fitness stuff on that one. And I'll start talking about parenting, and people will go, "What are you talking about?" It's kind of embarrassing. I haven't done that for a while, but I've done it a few times. Okay. So if you're just joining me now, I okay. If you're just joining me now, I just came over from Instagram. I'm going to be splitting these between Instagram and TikTok now because I'm on here every day. So I've got my Instagram followers. I'm getting a bigger following on there now. So it was just TikTok for about a year and a half. But now I'm just starting up on Instagram. So I'm going to be splitting these in two. So I'm just going to be doing 30 minutes here now. Plus, I still got this freaking cough. I wasn't coughing all day, and then I come on here and I start coughing. I don't know why. But you don't care if I'm coughing because I'm not contagious on the phone here. So, okay. So by the way, I'm Lisa. I'm here in Vancouver. My kids are 33 and 28, and I've got a grandchild on the way, my first one. So where are you from and how old are your kids? Always interested in that. Okay, so someone on YouTube said 20-month-old not talking yet. Any ideas? They often don't talk till they're 3. I'm not saying that you're going to be happy with that answer, but sometimes some kids just don't talk till they're 3. My kids never shut up from day one, so they got that from me for sure. So yeah, they're I'm not, if you're worried about it, take them to a doctor and get them checked out. But otherwise, it's quite common for kids to not talk until they're 3. I had someone I knew years and years ago. She didn't talk or walk till she was 3. Then she got up and ran and was talking in full sentences. She just was in no rush. She had a younger brother, 2 years younger, and she'd just point and grunt, and he'd get her whatever he wanted. She's very laid back. Cassie, I have 2 kids, 6 and 2. Welcome. That's on YouTube, and then I'm also at the same time I'm on TikTok. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. If you go in the link above, you can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses. My big boot camp course is on there. It teaches you how to be a leader in 5 weeks. Or you can download my free behavior board. A lot of people are saying that they're having a hard time getting my behavior board because I get a lot of people signing up to that. It's in the email. When you sign up to the newsletter, it says it's explanatory. You'll get a confirmation email. The behavior board is 2 attachments at the bottom of that email. That's what that is. I'm 48, my kid. I'm 48, my kid. Is that a typo? You're just telling me your age. I was asking for your kids' ages, but I'm 63 if anyone's interested. I remember 48. Whew. That was a long time ago. Okay. What were you saying about when and how long you're going live? Just 30 minutes. I just did 30 minutes on Instagram, and I've been on YouTube the whole time. So new subscriber on YouTube. Welcome, Cassie. I'm just getting going. I haven't really got going on YouTube yet. I've just kind of got TikTok settled in, and then I'm working on Instagram, and then I'm gonna work more on YouTube. So I'm just figuring all this out. I've only been really online consistently for about not 2 years yet, just maybe a year and 3/4. Oh, great. My lives are helping. That's why I keep doing this. I don't get paid for this. This is just I love doing it. I love it. I love talking to parents. I love helping parents. So, what do you think about gentle parenting? I don't critique other parenting methods. I use a big general umbrella. I talk about the old-fashioned authority style parent and the trendy pleaser parent style. I don't know where anything falls in there, and I would not critique other parenting methods. I think that's kind of rude. I just wouldn't do it. If you like what I'm saying, like I don't know what anyone else is teaching. I mean, I know the general ideas, but I've never looked at anybody else. I don't know who else is out there. Like some people will say, oh, have you seen what so-and-so says? I have no idea who they are. I don't know. I have never read a book on parenting or kids. I'm all kid taught, and I've been working with kids for 52 years now. So kids taught me all this. So, and I don't look at what anyone else is doing. Why would I? Kids are my teachers. How to handle 2-year-old tantrum. Well, I have a whole course on that. Check it out. It's one of my mini courses, Toddler Tantrum Busting. I've got such a good story for you, but I've just got this cough. I can't seem to. I'm worried about starting a story and then getting a coughing fit. Although I haven't had any coughing fits today. I'm at the tail end of this cold. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to commit to the swing story. The swing story is a true story. It's my favorite story for explaining why you ignore tantrums. Okay. Oh, just a sec. My daughter's messaging me. Okay. Sorry, when my kids call, I'm like, what? You should see how pathetic I am with my kids. I'm all over my kids. I'm very demonstrative. I'm like, oh, I try not to embarrass them, but I'm very one of those mothers, right? Hello, my precious angel. My son's 33, and I still call him my angel. I try not to, but anyway. Okay, now, the swing story. True story. So it's my daughter. Just say. The swing story is a true story. My son was 2 years old, and I took him to the park. At the park, there was another mom there with her 2-year-old boy. I didn't know her. I'd seen her in the neighborhood. She just moved in. So we're just introducing ourselves. Hi, you know how you do, right? We both got 2-year-old little boys. So, and I'm thinking, oh, goody, a new friend. So anyway, it didn't work out so well, but I'll tell you why in a minute. So anyway, we go to put our kids on swings. There's 2 swings, 2 2-year-old boys, 2 moms. So we go to put them on the swings and we're chatting and they both go, and they start pointing to the other swing and we go, oh, let's just move them. Who cares? We'll switch swings, right? Well, they both started having a tantrum at the exact same time. Like, oh, geez, we're just starting to chat, you know? So anyway, here's what I did. There was a bench and I took my son over there and I put him on the bench so he could have a tantrum there. He went to run for the swing. I put my arm out right away. He sat back and had a tantrum. He knows when mom does that, don't push, like don't even fight her. So, because when I say something, it's going to happen. So there's no way he was going to get back on that swing while he's having a tantrum. While he's tantruming, I'm looking at the trees, I'm looking at the birds, I'm not looking at him, I'm not talking to him, nothing. You ignore the crazy, you're waiting for the calm. I'm modeling calm behavior. They're not listening to you, they're watching you. He's watching my calm behavior. It's very important that you look like you're waiting for something. It's almost like you're going like this. You're just waiting. You don't want to dismiss them by looking at your phone. That's dismissive and rude. You want to look like you're just waiting. You're just waiting like a bus stop. You're just waiting for that to stop. So anyway, he only tantrumed for about 2 minutes. And then I said, oh, you all done? Okay, let's go back on the swing. So I ignored the crazy and I rewarded the calm. What am I teaching him? Crazy gets you nothing. Calm gets you something. Okay. Anyway, he's back on the swing having a great time. Here's the other bench, the other mom. She takes her little boy back to the bench for 20 minutes. He's screaming, having an absolute fit. She's reasoning with him. She's trying to hug him. She's trying to console him. She's trying to tell him what he's doing wrong, what he should do right. She's giving him a mini therapy session. You know, I hate those things. They're garbage. Because toddlers are not about words. They're not about mini therapy sessions. I know it's trendy to talk about big feelings, big emotions. That's garbage. That was invented for the mother. I saw that coming 30 years ago, and I said, what a bunch of crap. 30 years later, it's more crap than ever. But anyway. So mini therapy session for a 2-year-old, how stupid is that? Anyway, so she's talking and I'm like, this poor kid. Finally, he finishes the tantrum and he's got the hiccup cries. You know, he's doing that. Did she put him back on the swing? No way. She sat and had a 10-minute therapy session about everything he did wrong, what he should do right, how much, I know you love me, I love you, all this. This kid was miserable. For 10 more minutes, he went through 30 minutes of pure hell on that bench. He never got rewarded when he stopped having a tantrum. She didn't ignore the crazy. She didn't reward the calm. Where was the lesson? There was no lesson. It was just misery. Anyway, I don't know what happened to them after that. My son got tired of swinging, so we went home. I never saw much. She was so humiliated. So, I don't judge, but I was watching it though. I thought, oh, this poor girl. But I had lots of experience with kids before I had mine, so I already knew what I was doing. But yeah, she should have just watched what I did. And anyway, she didn't. Maybe she learned, I don't know. But anyway, that's the right way you handle a tantrum and the wrong way. Now, when you're first starting to do this, it's not going to be that easy. My son knew me. I had never reacted to a tantrum. I had never given that attention. So he knew he was never going to get me in on that. You know what I'm saying? Whereas if you've always done what she did, they're not going to be that easy the first few times. They're going to remember the old you who they were winning with. They were pulling it off. They were getting all that attention for a tantrum. Okay. So, but if they've never got it, like my son would have been worse with his father. Their father was more likely he was more the pleaser. There's nothing wrong with that. I was the leader, he was the pleaser. There usually is a leader and a pleaser in the family. But what makes it work is that the pleaser defers to the leader. So as the kids grew up and got a bit older, when he was out alone with them, if they ever tried to push him around or get something pulled the wool over his eyes, he would just say, "Do you want me to tell mom?" That's all it took. So yeah. So you're on the same page. You don't have to have the same parenting style, but you got to be on the same page. Defer to the leader. And I used to say to him, "I don't want you messing the kids up. Just say, do you want me to tell mom?" Because I knew what I was doing. I wanted to do all that. I wanted to be the leader. And I didn't want him to try because he might have messed him up. Everything you say is spot on. Oh, you don't read all my comments, obviously. I get a lot of real nasty people. I love that stuff. Anyone who's been watching me for a while knows I love all that stuff. That means I'm shaking things up. I'm making a difference. The funny thing is that the people who hate me the most keep coming back. Not so much anymore, but they came back for a long, long time. And I've always wondered, why do you keep watching me? If you hate me that much, why do you keep? It just didn't make any sense at all. I love it. But I'll be honest, some of them became clients and owned up to it because I could tell by their vernacular. I could tell. I said, "You were watching me on those lives and you were commenting a lot." And yeah, some of those people hired me. It was funny. I'd say, good for you. I was shaking things up. I did make a difference, right? No, I don't hate you. Oh, that's okay. Some people do. Doesn't bother me at all. If you worry about what strangers think about you, yeah, it's not right. Because, how do I put this? I used to teach courses on online bullying, and I used to do a lot of media work, like a lot of TV and radio, and they want to know about that. God, that was one of the most popular things to talk about. Bullying, online bullying, in-person bullying, and it was online bullying. And you know what I always used to say? Just tell them to unplug for a whole week. Bullies will move on to someone else. Well, what else can you do? Why not just unplug for a whole week? It was really frustrating for me, the online bullying one. But yeah. And I said, why do you care what other people think? Like, they don't know you. It's not personal. Plus, I'm old. I was always like this, though. I've always been bully proof. Okay. Oh. Oh, God. I wish I made that more clear. In perks. What if you're in a place when you can't reward them with something fun when the tantrum is done? Attention is reward. Okay. My son had a tantrum in a mall one time. When he finished, I said, "Oh, y'all done? Okay, let's get going." We just walked away. Attention is the reward. It doesn't have to be something fun. So yeah, good question. I'm going to make that more clear. I'm going to do a video on that. Ignore the crazy and reward the calm. Attention is the reward. There you go. It just happened to be that day he was getting back on the swing. But that's not always the case. Yeah. Good question, though. Makes sense. Yeah. How can I stop my 18-month-old from throwing tantrums? You can't. It's impossible. They're going to outgrow it. They're either going to have tantrums or they're not. But the better you get at ignoring tantrums, they're going to decrease. Sorry, it's got a sinus pain right now. I got the end of this cold and it's just been hanging on. Anyway, so when you get good at ignoring tantrums, they will decrease in duration, intensity, and frequency. They will peter out over time. But yeah, you can't stop tantrums. They're a beast. They have a whole life of their own. Kids are either going to have them or they're not. There's 4 things that you're either born to do or you're never going to do. The only thing my kids did was my son had tantrums. My daughter had none of these. One is tantrums, obviously. One is aggressiveness. They're prone to hitting and biting other people. The other one is runners. They'll run away from you out in public. They don't look behind to see if you're there. Safety is of no concern to them. The other one is climbing. They're either going to be climbers or they're not. They have no fear. Those are the 4 things toddlers are going to do. You didn't cause those things, and it's going to be difficult to handle. But the climbers is the worst one because that's the most dangerous, I think. When you're out in public and they're runners, just put them on a leash. They have to earn their freedom by not running. They have to learn how to not run from you. But yeah, climbers is the worst. Put bells on the furniture, bells on them, bells on everything they used to climb with, alarms on them, childproof your house. But good luck with that. You're gonna have to watch them because they're difficult. One mom said, I didn't even know what this was, but I looked it up. Her kid was climbing on the couch and falling off this all the time. So she got rid of the couch and she bought one of those. She had a word for it. It's like, I looked it up. It's like a mattress, and then it's just got like a foam backing. They're really low, so they can't really climb on it. It's all foam. I think you get it at IKEA. It's like you put them in playrooms too. So that's what they used as their couch. That's how bad this kid was at climbing, like really bad. Someone said a nugget. I've got a granddaughter due, my first grandchild. And the other grandparent was saying they call this one nugget. It's a common thing to call a fetus, right? A little nugget. And I said, well, that's the middle name. The first name is chicken. I thought that was, anyway. We don't know. We know it's a girl. We don't know the name of the girl yet. They're keeping that a big secret. So doesn't matter to me. Boy, girl, Ethel, Frank. I don't care what they call it. I just want healthy. Okay. I love this. Your name's Lisa too. I'll bet I've had it longer than you have. What do you do when your teen doesn't talk to you because you're not giving them their way? Okay. Teenagers are my favorite age. I started my whole business specializing in teen crisis work. I love teenagers. That's because I know how to talk to them. I used to mentor troubled teens. So these are my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. You listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. They will shut you out. They won't tell you anything. If they want your advice, they'll ask for it. They already know it anyway, okay? So listen to understand, show empathy. That's number 1. Number 2 is you negotiate pretty much everything. I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? It's like that, okay? And the third one is don't sweat the small stuff. Save your energy for the big stuff, okay? And allow them to make mistakes. And when they do something stupid, unless it's huge, they do something stupid, say, yeah, that was stupid. Wait till you hear what I did when I was your age. Like, it's okay, we all mess up. That's part of life. That's part of learning. We're not aiming for perfection here. Anyway, that's my top 3 tips. You're not giving them their way. Yeah, you got to work on, okay. Whenever I'm hired, by the way, teenage stuff, I don't have a course on that. It's all coaching. And you're not going to like me on the first session. None of the parents who hire me for teenagers, and I always say that, you're going to hate me in the first session because all we're going to work on is your relationship. I'm going to assess what kind of parent you've been in the past and the changes that you have to make. And you're going to work on your bonding and your relationship and your connection with your teenager. By session 3, we should start to get to the bigger stuff. The first 2 sessions are working on the connection. You can't discipline a teenager. You can only reason with them, and you can only reason with them when you've got a strong bond with them, when they respect you. So we got to work on that respect. I'll tell you, I've got a million stories. I've been doing this for 17 years now, teaching this. Just a sec. My voice is giving out. Anyway, I'll tell you a cute story. It's one of my favorites. It was earlier this year, I think. Anyway, this mom was at war with her 16-year-old son. Nothing new. But they had never really gotten along. You know how they're just like, and she always said, and I said, what? Because you're so much alike? You're both stubborn? Yeah, that's what, So that's what it was. They were both stubborn. And anyway, no one was listening. Everyone was talking and nagging. So they were at war every day. Now, he was 16. They had just bought him a new car because they wanted him to have his license so he could drive him. So they didn't have to drive him anymore. So anyway, every single night, the mom had to take him out for a driving lesson in his car. And they fought. She goes, it was a war zone every single night. They just about killed each other. She's nagging him the whole time. He's yelling at her. So I said, okay. On the behavior board, by the way, check out the link above. It's got everything up there that I've got to offer. So on the behavior board, I said to her, your rule is no yelling. And if you yell, your rule is the next time you go for a driving lesson, you are not allowed to speak. Unless it's look out for that bus or don't hit that wheelchair or whatever. Unless it's life and death. You're not allowed to speak. And she goes, well, I can't do that. Because he needs, and I said, yeah, you can. You're going to have to. That's that. I'm insisting. That's what you have to do. She did not want to do it. Finally, she agreed. And because I always pull out this card, don't waste your money on me. That's the best thing you should be doing this week. So she did it. She said, and I said, if you feel a yell coming on, let it fly. Don't force it. And she goes, no problem. So she yelled within a half hour after talking to me. So anyway, And she said, okay, so tomorrow night when we go for a driving lesson, I can't talk. So he just said, yeah, whatever, you know. So, anyways, they're getting in the car and she knew she wouldn't be able to not talk. So she had taped her mouth up with masking tape or I don't know. I think it was just masking tape or painter's tape or something. And he didn't see this, as she's getting in the car, because they never looked at each other. They hated each other, like they were really at war. So as she's getting in the car, she catches a glimpse of herself in the side mirror and starts to laugh. The bottom of the tape flaps. It opens up, it blows in her laughter, and it's flapping in the wind as she's laughing, and she's just cracking up. He looks over, sees her. They start giggling at this, and it was the start of a beautiful relationship. That's what broke the ice. It was this crazy tape on her mouth. She couldn't talk, and they were giggling and laughing the whole way. There was a lot of other stuff involved, by the way. That was just one part of it. But that was the start. It broke the ice. That was the start of it. You got to learn how to talk to teenagers and relate to them, because they're not stupid. Like, they don't want to just listen to you. You know, I always say leaders, when you lead, they will follow. They'll want to please you. That's up to about the age of 12. That's why my course, the boot camp, is 3 to 12 years old. They will want to please you. You don't want teenagers like that. You want them to want to please themselves. You want them to be self-disciplining, making good choices, respecting you, so that when you do say something, hey, I don't want you to do that anymore. What do you want from me? You know, let's work this out. It's like you're working things out with them. So that's what I teach, is the parent-teenager relationship. And the behavior board we call an accountability chart with teenagers. And they're quite happy to have you on there too. Anyway, it's a whole process. Teenagers are my absolute favorite age. Imagine if you could go through easily with your teenager. The hardest thing for me was my son used to like to go out late at night and play video games with his friends. And I had a younger one. I was a single mom. And my younger one, I had to wake my daughter up at like midnight or 1 a.m. to go pick my son up. That was hard. I found that really difficult. That was the hardest part of having a teenager, was when he'd go out and I'd have to pick him up late at night, and I had to wake my daughter up to take her with me. I wasn't going to leave her home alone. That was my biggest challenge, parenting teenagers. But I wanted him to go out. Just because I'm a single mom doesn't mean he can't go out. Well, you're going to hate my answer, Sabrina. 3-year-old threw a fit in the store because she wanted a toy. Any tips? She yanks away from me and won't listen. Do you go to? I never went to a store and my kids never walked out with a toy in their hand. Never happened. If they were going to get a toy, they could look at stuff and not play with it a lot. They could look at it very respectfully, but then I would go back later and get it if I was going to get them one. So yeah, once they've done something once, how do they know they shouldn't do that every single time? Usually that's a learned behavior, because it doesn't make any sense. She yanks away from me. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Yeah. It's like they don't understand. It's like when people grocery shop with toddlers. And I always say there's no way I would let a toddler out of that shopping cart. I had the goodie bag and that was all the little toys in there. So I gave them something to do. It's not just, you don't just sit there and be an obedient little soldier. Here, I've got your little activities to do while I'm grocery shopping. If you're going to give them toilet paper to throw in the back, they're going to have a fit if you don't also give them the eggs. You got to be consistent. Do you sometimes walk out with a toy with them in their hands and then other times you don't? It's a lack of consistency. When they're only 3, when they're little, they don't understand that. They don't understand exceptions, right? Well, you can have a chocolate bar today, but tomorrow you can't. They don't understand that. It confuses them. It's lack of consistency. And my kids knew. I used to say to them, if you ever ask for something when we're out, you'll never get it. That's not a treat. That's me filling a demand. They never did. The odd time they'd be looking at other kids just grabbing everything and I want this, I want, and my kids would just think there's no way they would have done that. And then every so often I'd just say, oh, pick a chocolate bar. And they'd be thrilled with that. Like it just didn't happen. I hate junk food. Like they never had any, or rarely. But every so often they'd get a treat. Yeah. Oh, good luck with this. How do I tell my mother-in-law not to discipline my child while I'm displaying the calm? Um, I don't even really want to give you advice on that, but I'll tell you what I would do, because that's not my lane. I don't teach mother-in-law relationships. I teach parent-child relationships. So, but in coaching, a lot of this comes up. So here's what I would do. I would say, I'm doing the best I can. Can you please not take over for me or undermine me? Because it hurts my feelings. What can she say to that? And if she comes back at you, good luck with that. If you're leading with your feelings and she doesn't respect your feelings, yeah, good luck with that. Just do the best you can. Got to get along with these people. Okay. You asked about autism. If they're on the spectrum, that's autism, ASD. I don't discuss that in social media. That's coaching. You'd have to hire me for one-on-one coaching. It's all in the link above. If you go in the link above, you can get my free behavior board. And a lot of people are saying lately, I know a lot of people are downloading it right now, but because of that, a lot of people also are missing this. When you get the newsletter confirmation, the behavior board is the 2 attachments at the bottom of that email. People are saying, how do I get the behavior board? It's at the bottom of the email. And then I'll go in, they'll say, I subscribed and I didn't get it, and they haven't even subscribed. Make sure you subscribe to the newsletter, follow it through, just follow the steps through, and it'll be on there. And then I've got my toddler courses and my boot camp courses, 3 to 12 years old, and then the coaching is the next level up. A lot of people have bought that boot camp course and also coaching. That surprised me. But some people say they just want me to do it with them. So, and it's a really good piece of reference to have throughout the years because it's 3 to 12 years old. If you've got a 3-year-old, it's a nice thing to have for reference when they're 12. I go through a whole bunch of different things, sex education, all that stuff in there. Okay, so Hannah, 5-year-old son having trouble sitting still, hands to himself. What's he like at home? Because everything starts and ends at home. If he's respectful at home, they're usually respectful at school. If they're not respectful at school, it means that they're not respecting you at home. Parents will say, oh, they're good as gold at home, but often you're giving into them. So often they're getting all their own way at home, and then they go to school and they don't get all their own way. So I don't know what's going on there, the dynamic. You work on your leadership skills. He's 5. By the time they're 3.5 to 4, if you're a really calm leader at home, they carry your leadership umbrella. Yeah, he's pretty wild at home. Work on your leadership skills. When they're 3.5 to 4 years old, if they've got a really calm leader at home, they carry your umbrella everywhere. When they respect you, they respect everybody. Yeah. You think my kids would want it to get back to me that they weren't respecting someone? They just didn't know any different. My son was in grade 2, and the teacher called me on her lunch hour to tell me this. She thought it was so cute. He was in grade 2, and she said to my son, "Why are you so nice?" And he looked up at her like this. "Mommy makes us be nice." Like he had no choice. Darn right. That was my job. You be nice. I didn't say that to him, but he knew he knew that that's what was happening. Okay. My daughter is 3 and is amazing at school, but with me, it's the complete opposite. That's actually really good news. It means she knows how to follow a leader. The teacher is obviously a good leader. Work on your leadership skills. Children react to that beautifully. Yeah. If they're good at school, just means they've got the teacher's a good leader. As they get older, it's not just that. It's also peer pressure, social pressure. It's embarrassing to act out at school as they get older, but at 3 years old, they don't care about that. I'm a nanny. I need help. I don't teach nannying. I mean, maybe you might a lot of people get tips from this. I get hired by a lot of teachers, principals, child psychologists, and they will actually use a lot of my methods on their clients or students or whatever and their patients. But a lot of it doesn't transfer over. That's why they hire me, because it's parent-child relationship is like nothing else. It's personal. Can you imagine how embarrassed some of my child psychologist clients are to hire me? Not so much anymore, but years ago when I first started, they were really embarrassed. And I said, no, it's personal. I couldn't do what you do. I couldn't be a child psychologist. Wouldn't have a clue. Couldn't be a teacher. Couldn't be a nanny. And I would not. Yeah, I could probably do a nanny. But even that, it's different. Parent-child is all I teach. How do I deal with a 4-year-old that all of a sudden doesn't listen? That usually starts at 3, because they usually find their power. If they have a leader, they don't do that. So work on your leadership skills. If he doesn't listen, if it's at 4, it doesn't usually happen at 4. It usually happens at 3 to 3 and a quarter. They find their power. The reason the behavior board starts at 3 is that's when they can stop and think before they act. That's also when they can stop and think, oh, wait a minute, you don't know what you're doing. I think I'll take over. That's what happens. So at 4, has something happened that's upset them or something shifted? Or maybe they just found their power a little bit later than most kids do. Blah, blah, blah. Or maybe your requests are bigger than they were before with the 4-year-old. Maybe he started preschool. Is that it? Yeah. There's more demands on him now. That's why. And if you were a leader, that wouldn't make a difference. Check out the boot camp course that teaches you how to be a leader. Sorry, I'm just going to look at my YouTube. Okay. Cassie said, I'm having problems with my 6-year-old talking back. I don't know if you're still on here, Cassie. Sorry about that. My focus is usually TikTok and Instagram on my phone, and I'm saving all these because I don't have a big following on YouTube. So I'm always surprised when someone's on the YouTube live. I'm like, really? Anyway, so your 6-year-old is talking back. Work on your leadership skills. When you lead, they will follow. Remember, we're never fixing kids here. We're fixing and teaching parents. When you're a leader, they follow. Like I've got respect from hundreds of kids I've worked with. Was it the kids or was it me? It was me. I know how to be a good leader with kids. I know how to bring out the best in them. So they like themselves when they're with me. They would be embarrassed to be rude to me because I know how to lead. It's all it is. It's body language, it's tone of voice. You want to be a lot of fun too, because if you're not having fun with kids, what's the point, right? You want to enjoy parenting. It was the most fun I ever had was raising my kids. I miss it. It's funny when people start talking to each other, I always get snoopy. What are you talking about? Okay. When I discipline my 4-year-old, she constantly talks back no matter what. Work on okay. You can either hire me for coaching, get the boot camp course, 3 to 12-year-olds, that's 5 weeks to get respect, or just get my free behavior board. I suggest you start with that no matter what else you do anyway. Just get the free behavior board, check it out, and start there. And pick a rule, or I call them battles. Pick a battle you know you can win with your 4-year-old. Yeah, start easy. If I'm working with people, like with coaching, I go with hard stuff because they're often going to mess up in that first week. The parents, I don't care about the kids, I care about the parents. They're often going to mess up that behavior board, but I know how to use that to our advantage. And then we get stronger through that. But if you're doing that without me, make it easy. Pick a rule you know you can win, manage. Okay. Newly 4-year-old whining, crying when things go wrong. So that's a process they have to learn. Do you give that attention? Do you try and appease them with all that stuff? Like what? So when things go wrong, you console them for being poor sports when they don't get their own way. Is that what's happening? You're teaching them that they should that they should be upset over not getting their own way all the time. That's what you're doing. If that's what you're doing, if you're consoling them and getting upset about it, you're validating that they're on the right track. In my head, that made perfect sense. What does it look like to ignore a hitting, scratching 2-year-old tantrum? Just let them do it. Yeah, we don't ignore the actions. If they're getting violent with a tantrum, you restrain them. You still ignore them. You don't look at them or talk to them. You just physically restrain them. Hold them for a few seconds, let them go. If they get violent again, hold them again. You can just say a real quiet no, but they're going to be screaming. They're not going to hear you anyway. So just hold them. When they get physically, if they hurt themselves, hurt someone else, or damage property, you physically restrain them. You don't do that with a 7 to a 9-year-old. When they get bigger, there's different things. You don't do it with that. It's too much. I answered accountability, you're bored. I don't know what that means. Okay, what would you say are the most challenging behaviors to navigate in the early toddler years? Oh, geez, they were my least favorite age. Cute as a button, all feet, no brains, though. I loved having toddlers at home because my house was completely child-proofed. I could just relax and not worry about them. But when I took my toddlers out, it's just constant watching them. They're always walking into a swimming pool or, off a cliff or something. Like, they're just dangerous, right? That's my least favorite age. But that was my challenge, was the safety. I'm a safety nut. It was a safety issue. I was always terrified. My daughter she had long, long blonde hair. She was gorgeous. I mean, people would stop and comment on her. I was always terrified someone was going to steal her. I was terrified. I hung on to her like glue. She got way more attention than I ever wanted. I mean, my son was cute too, but he didn't have this long blonde hair to go with it. Anyway, so yeah, safety was a real issue with me. What was I going to say about that? Most people, what they have a problem with is the tantrums, because they're so loud, they're so violent, but they're not nearly as bad with the kids as they are with you. You're the one that's more upset with the tantrum. They survive them quite easily. You're the one who has a nervous breakdown over them. So yeah, just understand that's their process. Some kids are just going to have them, and you can't stop them. You can minimize the duration, frequency, and intensity, but it's going to take time. They usually stop them at around 3.5. I would say tantrums are one of the worst things that parents complain about. By far, it would be tantrums. How to raise self-esteem young kids. Okay. Being a leader does increase their self-esteem, confidence, and they value you and themselves. They like themselves, because a leader guides them into making good choices. A leader knows how to have fun with them and enjoy them, which makes them feel good about themselves. Okay. A leader knows how to guide them into making good choices so that other people are also liking them, and they just have more confidence. So work on your leadership skills. It's all about you. It's all your leadership skills. You lead, they will follow. If you're not a leader, children naturally, instinctively need, crave, and want a leader. If you're not a leader for your children, they're going to be very vulnerable when they go out in the world. They're going to be very susceptible to peer pressure, bullying, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. They're going to be extremely vulnerable out there because they're searching for a leader. It's a natural instinct for a child to look for a leader. When you're a leader at home, it calms them right down. They have high self-esteem. They make good choices. They like themselves. They look up to you. They tell you everything right through the teen years. Someone asked about teenagers. Teenagers are my favorite age. Best advice for teenagers. I don't know. I think I just read that out, but I'll read it again. Now, there's three tips. Number one is you listen to understand and show empathy with teenagers. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. They will stop talking to you. If they want your advice, they're going to ask for it. They already know it anyway. Number two is you negotiate pretty much everything. Hey, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? You negotiate pretty much everything, okay? There's ways of doing that. And then number three is don't sweat the small stuff. They're allowed to make small mistakes, just like you did. Don't berate them for that. If they do something stupid, do what I did. I'd say, oh, that was stupid. Wait to hear what I did when I was your age. Like, we all make mistakes. Big deal. Like, the road to success is paved with failures. No one's aiming for perfection here. You're aiming for doing your best and slipping up sometimes. It's the big stuff you want to save your energy for. That's different. But yeah, listen to understand and show empathy is probably my number one tip with parents of teenagers. Number one. This is kind of, no, it's a bit too much. I specialize in teenagers, so I've got tons of stories with teenagers. But I don't want to scare you. So most of you have young kids, so I don't like to talk about the teenage stuff much. It was a story about the importance of listening, but it's a bit heavy duty, so it's very powerful, though. When you get good at listening, it's very powerful. The free behavior board, it's in the link above. If you go in my bio, actually, I got to get going. My voice is just giving out. It's in the link in my bio. You can get my free behavior board, and I suggest look at that before anything else, except the toddler courses. The behavior board doesn't start till the age of 3. So if you've got toddlers, I've got 4 toddler courses out there right now: tantrums, hitting, potty training, and bedtime battles. Those 4 are already available. Bedtime battles just came out 2 weeks ago now, I think. It's my latest one. And then the boot camp course, 3 to 12-year-olds, and then coaching is for teenagers, or any age for coaching. But I only have coaching for teenagers. I don't have a course on teenagers. Maybe one day. Haven't figured out how to do that quite yet. Not and make it really effective, because you can imagine how many different problems there are. And a lot of it is talking the parents off the cliff. You can imagine their emotions are pretty frayed. So a lot of it is, I'm not a counselor or a therapist, but that's what a lot of it is really. So yeah, what was I going to say? Yeah, that's on the link above. So shoot, I was just going to say something. Oh, I know. From now on, I'm getting a pretty big following on Instagram now too, because I'm quite new on there. So I'm splitting these in half now. I turn up here every day, but I'm going to do 30 minutes. They're all on YouTube for the full hour, but I'm going to do like 30 minutes on Instagram, 30 minutes on TikTok. And then my regularly scheduled ones will still be an hour. So you'll see it. It's an hour, 7 p.m. Vancouver time, Tuesday nights on TikTok, 5 p.m. Thursday nights on Instagram. Those will both just be an hour on either one. But every other day I'll turn up and I'll just do 30 minutes on each. And they're all saved on YouTube. Anyway, I got to get going now. Thanks so much for joining me, and check out the link above if you want some courses or coaching or just that free behavior board. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye now.